Happy New Year, guys. Welcome back to the channel. I hope you all enjoyed your holidays and whatever you got up to there. This video is going to take a number of weeks to film, and you'll kind of see why in a moment. So although I am now starting the recording on January the 6th, hence the Happy New Year, by the time you guys get to see it, that may or may not have aged very well. We'll see how long it takes me to get cracking on this job. So what job are we doing for the beginning of the new year? I'll just spin around the camera and we'll have a little look. So you can see arrayed before you here the main pieces of the task that I've got to do. So you might remember, those of you that have been following this build of this green car, the fuel tank that came with it was damaged. It had pinholes caused by rust in both the top part and a couple of bits on the lower half. So I didn't want to install it in this car because this car is going to somebody else. So I stole the fuel tank out of my other car, which is fine, and I put it into here. So this has got a perfect fuel tank, but I don't want to have to buy a new tank for the blue car, because whilst the new tanks are good, they are about 160, 170 quid, and they're made of thinner material than the originals. So I have the original tank for this, and what I'm doing is I'm looking to repair it. Now, all of these materials here all come from the same company, well, except for that, but that's supplied by the same company. I have absolutely no affiliation with this company. In fact, I'd never heard of them until I stuck fuel tank repairing into Google. But this is rust.co.uk, Rustbuster, and I've got a few things here that I'm going to be using to fix the tank, and I'm going to take you through the process from cleaning the tank through to removing any rubbish from the inside of it, through to utilising these materials. But fundamentally what we've got here is we've got something that's referred to as tank clean. So this is a caustic detergent, and what I have to do with this is to pour it into the tank, and I'll sling in a load of old nuts and bolts and whatever to help me agitate it, and I'm going to give it a good shake and clean it out. There isn't really much rust in the bottom of it, but this will get rid of whatever is in there. And once I've done that, I'm going to be utilising this fuel-proof epoxy putty to seal up some of the little pinholes that there are around the outside, because the final stage, and this is a two-stage process, you'll notice there's bottles labelled 1 and labelled 2. There are instructions with a nice order on how to use this. This is ethanol proof fuel tank sealer. It's supposedly rated to work with E85, and so obviously we only have 10% ethanol in the UK here, so it should be absolutely fine for that. And what I'm led to believe this does, according to the instructions, is you pour it in, you roll the tank around so it seals the outside, or sorry, it seals the inside, and that will seal the seams and the inside of any of the pinholes that have been sealed on the outside with that one there. And then I suspect the second stage is that it's some form of activator. So why can't I do that in 5 minutes? Well, I mean, first of all, I need to dig the tank out of my pile of shame in there. I want to clean the rust off the outside, so physical abrasion to clean that off. If I don't wash this out completely, or if I leave any form of water in the tank at all, it makes this stuff bubble up and gives a reaction, and it doesn't work properly. So I'm going to have to clean it thoroughly on the inside, and then I'm going to have to leave it to air dry, and probably because of the hours I work in my day job, it's going to involve me doing it on a Sunday, leaving it to air dry for a week after that. And then once I do this stage here, I've then got to leave it to air dry again before I can put any fuel into it. So it's going to be a few stages in the process, but as I go through doing it, I'll talk you through what I'm doing, and I'll give a little bit of a review as to how I think this this product has performed at all of the different stages, and then I can either recommend it to you or not recommend it to you. And as I'm not sponsored and have absolutely no affiliation whatsoever, I'm quite happy to say it's utter garbage if it's utter garbage, but if it's amazing, I will give props out to that company for supplying something good, because it will have saved me a lot of money. This whole lot came out to 45 quid, I want to say, and 45 quid is a lot less than 160 quid. Everybody knows that. So this is the tank in question. Not in the car, obviously, been out of the car for ages. As I say, it was the one from the green car originally. Now, on first inspection, it looks all right. However, when we start looking in a little bit more depth, you can see there are pinholes here, which is what I'm going to use the epoxy to seal. Looking inside it, the light's rubbish here. Inside it doesn't look too bad. See if we can look down through the filler neck. Again, not too bad there. We've got some surface rust, but as I say, these pinholes on the top are one of the things that I'm going to try and fix with the epoxy on the outside and with the sealant on the inside. The seams look good all the way around, where the tank is pressed out of two parts and then put together. And on the bottom, again, we've got pinhole, and we've got pinhole there. I think those are the main ones on the outside. The rest of it looks okay. So what I'm intending to do, as per the instructions in the kit, is I'm gonna, well, first of all, make sure I can get the drain plug out to get the cleaner out. Once it's in there, I'm gonna chuck in the caustic cleaner with a whole bunch of old nuts and bolts and stuff, give it a shake about, allow it to clean, and then we'll wash it out and let it evaporate. Out here I've got a hose that will run out to here, and I can drain it out. So that's stage one, getting the cleaner in here. It's actually freezing cold outside, so we'll see how long I can stick at this before I get fed up. So it's pretty caustic stuff, this, by the according to the instructions anyway, so I'm not going to use it neat in there because there's not much in the bottom of that tank. Horrible old rubbish. So what I'm going to do is just get my gloves on here. I've already chucked in a whole bunch of old wheel bolts and wheel nuts off an old car of mine. Just stick another one in there, and we've got some water here to just dilute it. So let's chuck that in there, follow it up with a bit of this, and give it a shake. Try and get the nuts to go past all the baffles that are inside the tank. Yeah, I can see it's coming out of some of the pinholes, so that's probably doing exactly what it should be doing without spilling too much of it everywhere. So what I'll do now is I'll take the drain plug out of the bottom of this and I'll drain it back into here, it should be okay to drain back into here and reuse. And then what I'll do is I'll flush it through with water, leave it all to evaporate again as per the instructions, because when you put the tank cleaner slosh stuff in, apparently it will just bubble up if there's any water in there. So although it's cold, there is nice airflow in the garage, so I'll leave that for probably a week or so, just to make sure that all of the dampness is gone. So I've now drained the clean out of the tank and I've blasted it through with loads of water, and I'm just leaving it here to evaporate. So the filler and the sender and the drain are there. And again, I'll leave this for a week and check whether or not after a week it's dry, because what I don't want to do is mess up the sealant process inside there. I also need to epoxy the holes on the outside, and we'll look at how that particular product works. I haven't checked the instructions for that. Do excuse the mess in the garage. I keep telling myself I need to clean it up, and I really haven't got around to it. Well, I drained this back into here. I thought the tank was relatively rust free on the inside, but actually that's much darker than it was when we started. So should now be good enough for us to move on to the next stage, which is looking at the sealant. So by the magic of television, in a moment it will be a week or so's time and this tank will be ready for the next stage. So we've had a couple of storms pass through this particular part of England, and I left the tank outside in the wind to help with the drying out of the inside, and it's mostly dry now. So what I've gone round and done is I've marked out on the tank where the little holes actually are. Now before I fill these from the outside, I'm going to clean them up a little bit better, degrease them and stuff. But we've got these few pinholes there, and again I just confirmed we've got a pinhole here, we've got a pinhole here, and they're all marked off so that hopefully I don't forget to fill them. What am I going to fill them with from the outside? Well, what I've got is this stuff here. So this is an epoxy paste. Comes in two components, so it's got a hardener in there as well, in little sort of 35mm film canister sizes. I suspect that it's very similar to JB Weld, that sort of thing, which I use quite a lot. It's not a putty, it's a nice paste, so it should smooth quite nicely over once it's placed in. Obviously once that hardens off, the inside of the tank is going to be sealed with the slosh liquid that I've got, which forms the epoxy seal on the inside, and between those two we should be good for actually not leaking fuel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of this up in much the same way as you'd mix up body filler, and then we'll clean the tank up and we'll start smearing it in. So I'll come back in a minute once I've got a little palette to mix this up, and we'll get this mixed up ready to go. I forgot to actually bring my camera out when I was mixing up the epoxy to go on the outside, so suffice to say it's on now. I've yet to sand it back, which I will do, because this bit is actually visible sort of in the car under the bonnet there, so I don't want that to look too messy. I'm not massively fussed about the bit at the back there, but I'll flatten it down. But it's drying up nicely there, and if I just roll this over, you can see we've filled even the large hole that was down there. So what I have decided to do, because the weather in the UK at the moment seems to fluctuate between about 9, 10, 11 degrees and about -5, and it seems to do it almost overnight with literally no warning. None of this stuff dries particularly well in cold, damp weather. So the tank itself is dry, which means technically it's okay to put the epoxy slush stuff in there, but I'm gonna leave it for a little while until the weather actually, you know, is a little bit more steady in double figures, so that it will actually cure correctly and I won't have to sit here and wait for ages. So we'll call that a day for part 1, and then we'll do this as a 2-part video rather than the single shot that I was intending to do. Okay, so we'll call that one a day there. As you can see, the tank in the state that it is now, repaired, cleaned on the outside, or sorry, cleaned on the inside, repaired on the outside. And what we're going to do is we're going to come back when the weather's a little bit better, and we'll chuck together a part 2. And in part 2, what we'll do is fill it with the what they call the Rustbuster Slosh, which is the epoxy sealant for the tank, and we'll see how that goes. So give us a like if you enjoyed the video. Please think about subscribing. It does help the channel grow and helps get the sort of the word out there to more classic car fans. So I hope you found that useful, and hopefully you're looking forward already to part 2, because I'm certainly looking forward to getting part 2 done, getting the car back together and taking it out for a little drive. So I've already promised you that you're going to have some drives in the summer in the shoebox. You're going to have more than a few drives in the spring in the Fiats, and I may well even do a little comparison between my green one and my blue one as to what's good and what's bad about each one, and some of the spec differences and all of those little bits. Till the next time, take care guys.